interesting about this kind of material is that it gives you, me as an individual, it gives me insight in my own behavior. And I think it would do a lot of people, do all of us, some real good if we had a better understanding of what our motivations are and how we got to this point in civilization and what we actually are. You know, I mean, maybe it will or won't change your behavior, but at least it'll give you some insight into...
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I find myself getting upset because you disagree with me about something trivial or even important like politics or something, and it takes a second, you got to stop and say, hold on, I don't have any privileged access to the right way to do things, right? Yeah. And so the fact that you care more about X and I care more about Y doesn't mean that you're like an evil person and must be overcome. It means that probably we ought to be talking to each other and trying to find a compromise solution that makes things work best.
But there's this automatic instinct to think that you are evil because you disagree with me.
And so the beauty of this the more you know about this stuff in the past and our evolutionary origins, the more you know that literally we've evolved to do that, because if we didn't do that, we were screwed. But now we don't need to anymore. And so now we can say, well, hold on, I'm a lefty and you're, in my example, you're a righty and we disagree about this particular president, but fine. Let's see if we can both agree on a goal that will make both of us happy rather than, no, you're evil and all I have to do is overcome you.
One of the things that I've really tried very hard from doing this podcast is to not be attached to ideas and to do that as an exercise. And I think over the course of the years I've been doing this, I've gotten way, way better at that. But it's just so fascinating when I encounter it in the raw form. Like when I go to a party and I just run into some guy who's a dad and he brings something up and I tell him, well, that's not totally true because of this. And then you see this, like the blood starts pumping and the heart starts beating and they're trying to look at some way you're wrong. And it becomes a personal thing. It gets very, very heated.
And it's easy for all of us to do that. And my job and your job is the same. It's to say, okay, is it time to abandon this idea? Is there time to defend it?
Yeah.
And when I was young and an academic, there was no way I was abandoning. That was loss.
Of course.
All I was going to do was defend. So you attack me and I marshal everything I can and I try to attack you back. And it was some of my colleagues were like, hey, man, when you're wrong, it's cool. That's what science is. And I'm like, you're right. I've got to start. And so now, even though I love the give and take of academics and I love to argue about stuff, I try really, really hard to keep in my mind, well, what if what you're saying right now is right? Rather than trying to just attack it, which is my automatic instinct, to say, well, what if it that you're saying now might be a value that I should actually be incorporating and not trying to stomp on?
Yeah, and also just the ideas aren't you.
Exactly.
You're you, and these ideas are just something that you're tossing around like a beach ball.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's super hard to keep in mind because everything that we come to own, we get attached to. Mm-hmm. And if I tend to have my ideas because they tend to make the world a more hospitable place to build, then in a way I kind of do need to defend them. Because if you convince me, no, the way the world should work is whoever's strongest gets everything, well, I'm stuffed. Mm-hmm. And so I need to try to fight against a lot of alternative views. And I have to overcome that in my effort to find what the right answer is as well. So it makes good sense that our ideas are like possessions, that we have attitudes toward our ideas just like we have toward the objects that we own that mean something to us, to our family, to our group, etc. That all makes really good sense. And the other side of that coin is if we, talking about the way things used to be, in a pre-medical world, if the chances of you carrying different pathogens than I carry is reasonably high. And if you infect me, I'm screwed. Now, if you do things differently than I do things, so you eat this food and I eat that food, well, different could actually be wrong from my perspective because if I do what you've done, I might get myself sick because you've adapted to that thing. And so we literally, probably for good evolutionary reasons, came to view cultural ways of doing things that are different as if they're wrong because that saved us, that protected us from the kind of pathogen vectors that you've gotten adapted to but that I haven't.
That's fascinating. So that this is almost like ingrained in us.
Yeah, well, we've evolved to be this way. And so it's hard to undo that.